streams, along the riverbanks. There's a few places that I go with my mom out in our territory. One's called Blossom Island, another McKay Reach, Turtle Point. But we usually start picking around Hartley Bay first and then go out to the areas. In Old Town, I know we start picking in June, around the end of June, but in Old Town, they start picking in August. And it's just because it's so cold, it takes longer for them to ripen there. As a kid, we used to just, when we're playing out, we just pick and eat the little shoots when they first start growing. We eat those, we pick them, peel off the outer skin, the outer bark, and we call it pokey oil, but I think it's actually oil. And you could just eat it plain or dip it in sugar. And now we use them in our salads. Mostly it has to do with going with my mom, spending time in the bush with her. But she's a berry picker. She always has been. I remember even as a kid her going out and getting berries. So, but my kids like them. I like them. The only thing I hate about berry picking is actually cleaning the berries. Not that I know of. There might have been like territory laws you had to have followed, I guess, way back. But I'm not aware of any rules for berry picking. Our berries, they're orange and red, and we have a different name for each one. So the orange ones we call Mooksgm'ol, and translated that would just mean ripens in the day. And for the red berries, we call them Mooksgm'ol, and we just say they ripen at night. There's different ways to prepare the salmon berries. The traditional way would be they would probably dry them and make little cakes so that they could use them in the fall. But we would also squish them up, mix them with a little bit of water and sugar and ulican grease, which is a favorite. Another way, squish them and use them in ice for the kids, and well, everybody loves them. But I've also started using it for dessert on a cake. So I would make a glaze and then mix the salmon berries in and put it on top of the cake for dessert. And I'm trying to think. Oh, jam. People are now making jam with them. So salmon berries are a wonderful, wonderful delight.
Major key, special clause.
It's mostly male crabs that we harvest, and just like anybody that is wanting to look after a resource, First Nations people and Gitga'at people knew that the females were the givers of life, and they definitely weren't harvested anywhere near to the amount that males were harvested. Females are harvested once in a while because their eggs are a real delicatessen for Gitga'at people and well, any First Nations person. They're very tasty and are a real treat to have once in a while. So yes, both are harvested, but the males are harvested far more than the females. If I tell you that, I'll have to kill you. Just kidding. No. There's lots of different places throughout our territory that I harvest. The number one rule that I'll just keep going back to is that I always I always use whatever I take. Some of the primary places that I harvest are in Big Bay, Kiskosh, Old Town, and even at Union Pass or Cornwall. And what I always pay attention to is the numbers that I'm getting and the size of crab that I'm getting. And if I always pay attention to that and watch when the numbers start to go down, I'll leave the area that I'm in and I'll just go move to another area to start harvesting from. That way I'm always ensuring that there's more crab to go back there for the next year. And I've been running my own boat and harvesting for our family since I was probably about 12 to 14 years old. And I'm 48 now, and I've used that whole routine my whole life, and I've never run out of crab. So those are my places that I go to. If I harvest a whole bunch of crab that it's kind of overwhelming for my family to deal with, then I just give it to other families. I don't want to get to the point where I'm just harvesting for the sake of harvesting. I want to be harvesting to make sure that whatever I'm catching is going to good use and is feeding people. So you can ask anybody in Hartley Bay. I always share the crab that I get, and I love sharing what we get from the sea. In most of the places that I set, it's anywhere from 2 to 3. It's never more than 3. And on a really good set, I could bring home 100. And on a lower end, I think if I set 3 crab pots and I only got 20, I would probably take my crab pots back and let the numbers build back up again. So on average, I get anywhere between 35 to 40 to 85 to 100. Over the course of a year, I will harvest for our family max and for our extended family anywhere from 1,200 crab to 1,800 crabs in one spring and summer. So it's a lot of work and it's a lot of crab, but if I keep following the rules, there's always crab left. My goal with seagull eggs is to catch or to harvest about at the most, I guess, maybe about 150. At the very least, at least 80. And that usually gets my family, we're pretty happy to have those seagull eggs in the late spring. And if we look after them right, my dad, Sinachet, can be eating a seagull egg a day for breakfast every day until Labor Day. So we are able to keep them for a couple of months, so it's a good thing. There's many different rocks within our territory that we can go and get seagull eggs. I go to Marble Rock, I go to Otter Pass, I go down through the west side of Campania. I go out as far as the west coast of Banks Island. I go quite far to ensure that we get seagull eggs. I go as far, even up in the Rupert and Skeena River area. We harvest eggs off of Lawyer or Hamner, Green Top, Holland Rock, lots of different places to go. Seagull eggs usually are around at the beginning of June. Typically I start going to check rocks from maybe June 4th to June 7th. And I think my wife has told me that she's been keeping track of it, and she says that the majority of our eggs have been gotten in and around the 12th over the last 5 years, so June 12th. So definitely the first week of June. And after that, after we get enough, we just don't touch the nests. We let the seagulls reproduce. Well, I've been going to get seagull eggs now for, I can remember my dad taking me out when I was really young, probably about 8-10 years old, and we've been doing it every year. So I haven't really kept an eye on the numbers, but every year we get around the same amount. So I would say that the numbers are staying pretty consistent, and the seagulls are able to reproduce. So I'd say they're staying pretty consistent. Fried. I love fried seagull eggs. Most of the people like to boil them though, but you can bake with them. And if you think about it, if you think backwards of a couple of hundred years, even upwards of 1,000 years ago, you can imagine how important seagull eggs were to the people on the coast here when they didn't have any other eggs to eat. So it was very important for them to go and harvest those seagull eggs. And when you cook with a seagull egg, your cake turns orange. It's kind of cool because the yolk is so bright orange. I'll leave it at that.
Major key special cloth.